Well, hello and welcome to everyone who's joining us live, or indeed anyone watching the recording. My name is Adrian Reed. A very warm welcome to this LinkedIn live conversation. I'm really pleased to say that we have Angela Wick with us here today. Now, there are very few people on LinkedIn that you can say need no introduction, but Angela is very likely one of them. You may well know Angela from BA Cube, online learning repository and experience, from being a LinkedIn learning instructor. Some awesome LinkedIn learning sessions. You may have seen her speak at a conference or read one of her many blogs and bits of content or seen online. I mean, there's so much more I could say, but Angela, thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Adrian. So good to see you, and thanks for having me.
And we're going to be talking about a topic today, which I'm sure is on everyone's mind. Now, one thing to say is if you are attending live, please do add comments at any time, and we will try and bring them up on the screen when we can. In fact, we've already got someone saying it's a very interesting topic, which it really is. So we'll bring up as many questions and comments as we do. So do type them in as we go along. So Angela, we'll start at the very beginning. So, of course, you're going to be talking about this topic at the Building Business Capability conference, which is in just a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
But before we get started, it's probably worth setting the scene and sort of discussing some terms. So I'm sure most people tuning in will have heard of AI, but can you give us like a brief intro into how you would describe AI, maybe the types of AI and its relevance for BAs?
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say if we haven't heard about AI yet, we've got to come out of that shell and figure that one out, right? Artificial intelligence, AI for short, has been around since the 1940s, right? It's been around for a long time. And I've been teaching classes on it. I have a LinkedIn course called Digital Business Analysis that was published 6 years ago, talking about all different types of AI and what this is doing for technologies and business technologies and what it means to business analysis. But I think the popularity in the last year of the term is really about the advances in computing speed and data processing speed that have brought a lot of these AI capabilities that have been around for a long time into a reality perspective, right? This isn't just like experiments in labs, but now it's like, wait a second, our processing capacity and computer speed capacity now enables organizations to build tools that are more scalable to use this AI. And that's really the big thing that's happened in the last couple of years that has made this such a big topic.
So the scalability, the move from theory to reality. And I suppose it's probably fair to say as well, Angela, that there's an element of it becoming a bit of a mass market proposition, or not necessarily mass market, but like anyone can go and use ChatGPT version 3.5 for free. You know, Microsoft Copilot is out there, and it's
Mhm.
kind of like once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in, right? It's like everyone's got access to it, and so we've got to be able to respond to it. So
Mhm.
Indy says, always asking the tough questions, Adrian, because I started with a really broad question. I'm glad you could be here,
That was
Indy.
a tough one, and it was kind of, but not really in the prep, by the way. No.
Yeah. So why would you think that BAs, or why should BAs care or pay attention to AI? So specifically
Yeah.
BAs.
Well, specifically BAs, right? We are at the forefront of ensuring that change, and oftentimes technical change, actually delivers value to the organizations, users, and customers. So in a world of rapid technical change and with AI and generative AI advancements, that change scale is becoming even more exponential than it has been in the last several decades and years, where we keep seeing unprecedented change. It's getting bigger. The change curve is getting steeper. So to me, what this comes down to is three impacts for BAs, and these are big and they're happening fast. And that is productivity, how we can use generative AI just to be more productive in our work. And a lot of people are talking about these aspects of AI. But what I really want to bring us to is understanding that the other changes that are happening, like other changes in the SDLC. So if we are being more productive with AI, so are the other roles that we work with. So that means our software engineers, developers, QA engineers, testers, product managers, project managers, all these other roles we work with are also changing how they work. So wait a second. If we all work together, that means we have to change together, which means changes to the SDLC. So that's a big area. And then, of course, we've got business process and model changes where our internal business stakeholders are changing the business process for themselves and externally for our customers and business partners. We have to put our own oxygen mask on first. We cannot do those projects if we don't understand and use AI ourselves. So lots of impact. We've got to be on top of it.
That's really interesting, Angela. And I mean, the productivity element is one that I think probably people are really starting to focus on now. But the point you made about the changes to the SDLC or changes in the way that different roles interact with each other is, I think, another really important point, because actually, if we all go off in separate directions, if we create things which don't talk to each other, then that's going to have an impact too. And I like what you say about kind of model changes and alongside all of that as well. Let's bring in some comments here. So Enrico says also quantum computing. And Gottfried adds that that's also becoming more important, but still far away. AI is already making an impact, which is very much what you were saying, Angela, that it's here already.
Yeah.
So thinking about what you've just said there, those three areas, so productivity and the ways that we work together and models and so on, how might a BA actually tangibly use AI in their work right now? What sort of examples? How have you seen it used or used it?
Sure. Well, I think from the productivity perspective, lots of BAs, and I'm hearing stories every day about it. I experiment with myself every single day. Productivity in terms of researching a business domain. So can we research a business process, right? Every organization's business processes are actually not that different than other organizations. So researching what that kind of global state from a global knowledge base of a large language model of AI, like how are people doing this process? What's the common process? I find that using AI to research that and have a conversation with AI about, hey, what does process typically look like? What are the risks in the process? What are the common scenarios and rules? What are the common challenges and from what perspectives, et cetera, then I'm prepared to go meet with a business leader or business team on a totally different level than I would be without that knowledge. And even if I'm already a subject matter expert on that business area, understanding the external view of that business process from outside my company can give us so much more productivity and good questions to ask to make that process even better. So that's one. Kickstarting the thinking process on requirements, right? We know that our stakeholders only give us about 10% of the actual requirements. We have to analyze and dig for the other 90%. So I think AI can accelerate this process by having the right conversation with AI about the requirements. But you have to be skilled in requirements to have that conversation. It's just not magic, right? So with that, identifying requirements, user goals, scenarios, alternate paths, rules of business processes, all that kind of stuff. So, and that's not even to mention the idea of meeting notes, automation, and all the other things you can do. AI can design screen mockups for you. It can analyze screen mockups and data sets for you. All this stuff I've already done in ChatGPT for months. So much from a productivity perspective, and there's so much more to come.
Yeah, and the productivity element, like most BAs, I've been experimenting with this, and one thing I find, I mean, there are multiple applications, of course, but one is like that blind spot and the almost triggering something you've not thought of. So obviously, if you're putting it into a public AI, then you're not going to put anything controversial, but you might say, what could go wrong with an X process? Right, like what exception flows might there be? And I find that really useful. And I've also you can create images, like if you're creating personas or whatever, you can create. So there's all sorts of interesting things there. And as you say, many more things to come. That's alongside, as you say, just like transcription's a game changer, really, isn't it? It can really make a difference. So Indy asks, is there any validity to this statement? The impending dominance of AI in product management heralds a future that is not about obsolescence of the human role, but about the evolution and redistribution of responsibilities. That's a
Yeah.
very well considered statement there, I think, Indy.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true, right? I mean, all this productivity stuff isn't I don't really think it's going to replace us. I think it's going to make us more effective if we have two skill sets, one working with AI and two our strong analysis skill sets to begin with. So I can have AI help me draw a state transition diagram and identify all the possible states.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can reverse engineer the code to do the same thing. But can it help me truly improve the business process? It might if I prompt it correctly and if I have the right data connected to it, but who's going to set up that data and that ecosystem to make sure that that's all in place? Who can think through that and understands what that would look like to even set that up? So, right, there's so much we as humans have to do to collaborate with AI to make it effective. It's just not effective on its own because it exists.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder whether calling it augmented intelligence might be more accurate, because you kind of
Yes.
need you need intelligent application, you need IA of the AI for it to make
Yes,
sense.
I like
Um,
that. But
um,
yes, augmented AI is definitely a phrase I've been using as well, for sure.
yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
Damien asks, if AI is learning from user prompts and file loads, is there any security risk to the data that's shared on the prompts? I think that's a very, very good question to ask, and I think the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
Yes,
um,
it's probably one of the more common things people talk about. At the same time, there's been huge advances of configurations for these models of what data is private versus public. So,
mm,
yes, Damien, and at the same time, it's controllable, right? We can configure and control that. That's not a universal statement that anything you put into any AI is all of a sudden public domain, right?
mm.
You plenty of organizations have locked down and have guard walls for that. But the trick is to get
You mean you can, it is possible. I mean, I'm not a technologist, so I don't know, but you can have an instantiation, you can have a private
yeah,
AI model, right?
yeah.
Michelle asks a related question, which is, many organizations don't want their data shared with public tools. How does this limit the value of AI generated content? So if there's almost like, if an organization is saying, don't go into this walled garden, does that mean that the public data set is less useful because it hasn't got access to that walled garden?
Um, well, again, I think it comes down to we have to be really clear on what the AI model we're using is. Is it public or private data that the model is
Yeah,
based on? And or is it private or public data that we put into the model? And all combinations exist. So we
yeah,
have to really understand which model and combination of the source data and the data being put in, if it's public or private. I think what people get a little mixed up on is, yes, ChatGPT is public and public
yes,
unless you
yes, 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 yes.
purchase unless you purchase a private version where you can configure what's private and public. And then organizations build their own hybrid or private models. So
Yeah.
there isn't one answer to that. It really depends on how it's configured.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we've talked about AI. Now, of course, the title of this session is around agility as well. But before we get to agility, I just want to interject with a few topics here.
Yeah.
Just like really briefly, creativity, right? Does AI take away the fun, creative parts of our role?
No, I think it does the opposite when we use it correctly. You resonate with that, Adrian?
100%. I was struggling to keep a straight face as I was saying that, because it's like, and I mean, I think in many ways, it used correctly with in the right way, it can free up time for more creative stuff. But
Yes,
there are of course the security concerns, and we need to get around those. But yeah, I think it actually creates space for creativity. Um,
totally. I agree. In fact, I think it brings out the creativity in me. And we talk about creativity, right? Business analysts typically fall into structured creative thinkers, meaning that if you give us some type of network structure, we can kind of ping, 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 ping around our brain for different knowledge and connect knowledge that wouldn't otherwise be connected. In a sense, that's what AI is. So it just gives us more like ping, 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 ping points to connect knowledge that our human brain may or may not have connected before. And so I call it structured creativity. It, like you mentioned, like it's that like, oh, light bulb moment. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I use it for that a lot, and I think even with something like ChatGPT, if you put something in that's very generic, like what might fail with X process, right? That's not like you're putting state secrets in there. So
Mhm.
obviously it depends on the use case and the scenario. But I also just want to very briefly talk about ethics. So if you're a BA and perhaps maybe even the organization's thinking about implementing or using AI, what are your thoughts on how BAs should think about ethics?
Well, there's one really important thing that I think BAs need to understand. AI is created by humans. The
Yes.
data is put in by humans into the model, and humans oversee the training of the model. So the scary part is how scalable that is and how fast. So if we're doing this without AI, we have less information and less scope and longer duration to figure out the ethics
Hmm.
if the data has ethical issues in it or the usage of the data. With generative AI, it gets a little scary because the pure scale of the data and the processing time is so fast, it becomes a little more difficult to catch the ethical considerations. But I do want to put out there, BAs, you are what I think is one of the number one roles in this because you understand the full ecosystem of the data sources, what type of human activities provided the data, edited the data, changed the data.
Hmm.
You see the full scope of an end to end process that provides and consumes data, unlike other roles. So I really think we have a huge play in this.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while, which is I think that often a BA, a bold and brave BA, is in a really good position to say, is this ethically the right thing to do? Like, are there any ethical concerns with this? Or what unintended consequences might happen if we do X?
Well, and
So
I think they have to go further than that. I think they need
yeah,
to dig in and provide examples, not just ask the question,
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
right?
absolutely. Um,
Mhm.
So one question that like talking about AI wouldn't be complete without talking about job security. So are the robots taking over, Angela?
Well, they're taking over the boring menial tasks that a lot of, I'll say, very senior and experienced BAs don't necessarily like doing anyway.
Yep.
Um, right? So I like to think of AI as like having an intern fresh out of university working with you. You can give it a ton of things to do, but boy, you better give it really good directions or you're going to end up redoing it all. And and you don't really know where they get their information from sometimes or what their thought process is. So what do? You have to ask them, right? So so I think there's a lot of huge gains we can make. Is in terms of BAs, if you're not upskilling and taking on that leadership type role with it and supervising your own usage of AI, much like you might supervise an intern, then yeah, you're up for replacement. But the BA role in essence is stronger than ever with AI and needed even more. But what I'll challenge folks out there with is that doesn't mean you're a note taker or simply writing requirements and just doing what everyone else asks you to do. You actually have to do the business analysis work. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's what's like, are we up for replacement? Well, if you see your job as a spec writer and a note taker that isn't using our tried and true analysis techniques, yes, your job is in trouble because that will be seen in a few years or already in some organizations as not valuable. Just the note taking and the documentation aspect of things. But if you are truly using your critical thinking skills, using your analysis models, using your facilitative alignment and decision-making skills with others and leaders, and thinking about value and tracing value all the way through everything you're doing, asking the daring questions and doing what we consider as real BA work, there's
Yeah.
no way that'll be replaced.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of referring to what you said earlier, Angela. It gives us more space for the real value add areas, right? Because if we can automate or semi-automate some of the areas which are just burning time, then actually, we've got more time to spend on the really valuable stuff. So I
Which
just want
can
to,
I add one more thing to that,
yeah,
that a
yeah,
lot of people, miss? That doesn't mean necessarily that all of a sudden you're gonna have 100 more projects on your plate. What the time I think that it gives us is time to think.
so important to say that. I'm really pleased you did, because it's overlooked, like particularly when you're going from meeting to meeting to meeting to Teams call to whatever. It's like sometimes I'm just like, I just need to sit down and like think about all of this. um
Yeah.
so I just want to bring in some quick fire questions now.
Uh-oh.
um yeah, right, these are really hard questions, so
Oh,
I
no. You didn't
apologize
put
for
these
the
on the prep doc, did you?
no,
You're
no,
so
no.
methodical, Adrian, about being very planned and prepped, and then you just throw wild cards at me? Is that what's going on?
Yep, yep.
Okay, fair
You've
enough.
worked with me before. Sally says, and this is something that is relevant not just for AI but a lot of things. But actually, there's a whole environmental sustainability impact of using AI. AI burns a lot of a lot of energy, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, have you got any thoughts on that?
It's not something I've looked into. I agree that there is an impact, I mean, even crypto and Bitcoin are a big example of that, right? Um, I don't I don't
Yeah.
have a lot of knowledge on that at all, and I haven't looked into it much. Mm-mm.
Yeah, and Damien adds that ESG. So thinking about ESG in the context of AI is an interesting topic. I mean, I'd add on that that there's an interesting book I read called Worldwide Waste by Jerry McGovern. And actually, if you think about it, the fact that there's more and more data out there, right, and data is just being created generally, well, that's being stored somewhere. So there are more servers, which there are more hard drives spinning up, and so it's kind of it is a dilemma that I think we've got with AI, but with lots of other things um, as well. And just a question from Kenny: when Angela's been using AI, does this tool analyze her company's data, or is it a public version that looks across countless sources for the answers? So I know you mentioned that there are different options, but have you used private, public, hybrid?
So I've been experimenting with both, primarily the public version of things, and I'm very careful, of course, what data I would put into that. Um, but I've also played around with like creating GPTs where in
Mm,
the prompting, I can direct the AI to use specific information I give it and not let that information be public. So I've played
yeah,
around with that as well. So yeah, so Kenny, the answer is yes, I've played around with all of it, but so is your organization. And super important for BAs to understand that concept of internal, external purchase data. And then what are you using it for? And how are you combining it for what usage? We can prompt an AI to say, when you're interacting with this person who's asking this type of question, use this data source and only this data source.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's,
Great.
I've totally written
So
those prompts. Yeah.
great. So of course, the title of your session at BBC is
Mhm.
Business Agility Through Combining Analysis with AI. And so I want to just very briefly talk about agility for a moment. So, can you tell us a bit about what you mean by business agility and how that links to analysis and AI?
Totally. Business agility is simply put the ability to adapt, pivot, and change. And with all this change happening in our environments, obviously our businesses need to adapt, pivot, and change. And that is the essence of what business analysis is helping our organizations adapt, pivot, and change. So yeah, and it's just going to happen faster and faster and faster. So what does that have to do with our day-to-day work? Well, the more we can do experiments, hypotheses, small increments of work, and get working solutions used faster in small increments and add on to it, the more adaptive and pivoting we will be. So in essence, right, it's more of the agile concepts from an adjective perspective, not agile as a noun, but agility, agile as an adjective. And we have a huge play in that as BAs because we help define what these increments are, right? As long as we can define these small pieces of value and manage a backlog based on them or manage our priorities based on them, we are huge instigators of agility. Or we could be huge blockers of agility and maybe not know it.
There is always that risk.
Yeah.
And I just want to bring in a slightly different topic here because someone in the chat preempted this
Oh, really?
and said, "Congratulations on the new book, Angela. Pre-order is in." And we didn't know when we scheduled this that we'd be able to announce this.
No.
But literally on Amazon, you have you and Tim Coventry have written a book. So I mean,
Yes.
just tell us a little bit about the book.
It's so crazy because this all happened yesterday, and when I woke up yesterday morning, I did not know this was live. So, so very exciting. I knew we were close. I was telling like friends and family, like, we're either days or weeks away, but I just don't know when. So yes, the pre-order is up. It should be, which basically means the book is being printed and distributed worldwide right now. So you can order it, but they can't physically get it to you for a couple of weeks, likely, right? So yes, the book is literally being printed as we speak. We've already had printed copies reviewed, by IIBA, the publisher, and all that. So, but yeah, the book is it's called Future Proof, ironically similar to the session named today. And again, yeah, funny, Adrian, when we reached out and did this, I couldn't say that title was synonymous to a book coming out. So yeah, very exciting. The book goes into what this means, like the urgency of agility and AI and what it means to business analysis. So what we do is we kind of set up the urgency, the why behind it, the history of business analysis and what's got us to this point. And then we talk about AI and the phases of like how BAs will kind of migrate through using AI into more kind of fully automated business analysis in some ways, right? And what we've done is set up each chapter with a fictional vignette of a BA of the future. So every chapter starts with fiction. Well, we'll see if it's fiction. And and then we go into the more practical concerns, right? We talk about an AI accelerator framework, which has a framework component BAs can use to help make sure they're on track with AI. Talk about continuous analysis aspects, data analytics, and how that comes into play. And then a lot about the skills that we need to upskill and work on to make all this happen.
Amazing. Well, I mean, I will definitely be. I might wait till BBC to buy it because then I can get a signed copy.
And a discount.
I'm discount, so I'll definitely wait till BBC. So this is an opportunity for, of course, us to remind people that you are delivering a session on this at BBC. So, I mean, like, what, in a nutshell, what are people going to take away from that session?
Sure. Well, we're still planning the session. Tim and I are meeting, a couple times a week, obviously, to put that all together. But I think they'll take away some good nuggets about there it is. Yep. Some good nuggets about AI, business analysis, agility, some of the themes in our book. Absolutely. And some discussions on, how does it relate to the BA box today, even. We're going to go into that. We have a little video to show that we've had AI create for us.
Wow, that's worth coming along for itself, and it's a spotlight session, so you're not competing with too many other sessions, which is great as well. So excellent. Well, thank you. I mean, and apologies to anyone whose question we haven't been able to get to, but Angela, I'm sure people want to connect with you. They want to find out more about what you do, how they can work with you. How can people stay in touch? How can they connect?
I think the best way is just give me a follow on LinkedIn. So yeah, follow me on LinkedIn, check out ba-cube.com, and I'll see you at BBC. I will also be for our European friends at BA and Beyond Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Brussels, and Luxembourg City this year in May and June. So I'm super excited. I'll be giving a similar talk at the Luxembourg City keynote for BA and Beyond. I am a dual citizen of Luxembourg and United States. So very excited to be part of that inaugural conference this year in a meaningful way. So
that's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, Angela, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'm sure people will want to go away and pre-order that book. It's available on Amazon and I'm sure other places as well. And I'm sure this conversation is going to keep going. So, I can see people still chatting in the comments. Keep the conversation going. The chat, the comments stay open long after the session has ended. The only thing I want to do just before closing is just do a quick plug, as I always do, for BA Digest, which is a completely free, open source quarterly PDF magazine. You don't even need to register to get it. You can just go to badigest.link. That's badigest.link. And in fact, we're currently working on the Q2 edition, which will be out in a few weeks, but you can look at the entire back catalogue for free. So do check that out as well. But Angela, for now, have a fantastic rest of the day. And thanks again. See everyone soon.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks.